is New Mexico Frontiers. Presented by Veris Research.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for New Mexico Frontiers Digital Series. It has been a hot minute since we have been in the digital studio to talk New Mexico Frontiers, but we've got a really cool topic that we are talking about. Now, if you've watched the show before, quantum computing is probably something you've heard before, but if you're also like me, it takes a little bit more of unpacking. Fortunately, Sandia National Lab CNM here to talk about a really cool campaign that is going on. Gentlemen, first, let's start with introductions. And Doctor, let's start with you. Tell us your name and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, wonderful. My name is Brian Rayshap. I am a retiree from Intel Corporation, so I spent 25 years in the semiconductor industry. And I am now in my encore career, which I always had a passion for teaching. And so now I'm at a point where I can give back to the community and give back to, I'm going to say the kids, but you'll find out that my students are all ages. And so I'm an instructor at CNM. I've been working on something called the Internet of Things, and I am building this quantum training lab at our facility.
Okay, fantastic. And of course, partners with Sandia National Lab. Jake, tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jake Douglas. I'm at Sandia National Labs, where I lead our quantum business development team. So working with our leadership, our R&D staff members on strategy, partnerships, things of that nature. And in this context, it's workforce development and regional economic development. So working closely with the Elevate Quantum team, which is a recently announced Economic Development Administration tech hub, the only quantum one in the U.S., and we're rolling things out now. And a key kind of project that we're really highlighting across the Mountain West, Colorado, Wyoming, and New Mexico is the work we're doing here with CNM on a quantum technician training program.
So let's dive into this. Before we get into this quantum technician training program, how it's going about, the boot camp, let's just kind of establish a baseline of quantum computing. What is it? Someone hears quantum computing. Can my computer do that? Is that do Alt F2? Is that how I make this happen? No, this is a completely different philosophy beyond binary code.
Exactly. And classical computers or traditional computers, as you said, use binary code, which is just basically ons and offs. So you can think of a computer as just a bunch of light switches, and if I turn on these two light switches, then another one turns on down the line, another one, and kind of sending signals. In a quantum computer, instead of it just being this on or off, the way I like to talk about it, it's almost like the data is stored on the surface of the Earth, on the globe, and every longitude and latitude point, so every location on Earth is a different place of data. And so the quantum computer can store stuff that way, and then it uses these quirky quantum mechanics type things where the data isn't, it isn't at the North Pole or the South Pole, it's somewhere in between, and when you look at it, it jumps to either one of the poles. And because of that, you can do computing in a totally different way.
And it can do things I've heard before with quantum computing. What may take a classical computer 1 million years to solve, a quantum computer can do in almost a blink of an eye. It's incredibly fast.
Yeah, for certain applications and maybe.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a case where when I describe it, it's just going to give us a brand new tool set to solve really hard problems that our classical machines could never, ever do, right? Millions or billions of cycles. Right. And so it's going to give us a new tool set to solve things in new, fun ways. There's a lot of challenges that we have to overcome to actually get there. But if we start thinking about anything that we use classical machines right now to try to optimize, so let's say flight paths or logistics or your financial portfolio, right now those challenges are really hard for our classical computers to do. And we, of course, use them. And we have decent solutions right now to actually do it. But quantum computers are going to give us brand new ways to go through and just amplify that impact exponentially, right? And so we're already finding ways to use quantum computers to do things like fraud detection. And the computers are still very early stage, but because they operate in fundamentally different ways, we're able to use them in fundamentally different ways and really cool, fun application areas. So, it comes down to quantum physics, but really what we need to know is new tool set, new way to do computing, and it's going to solve things that we never thought would be solved.
And that's kind of where this new lab is coming in, is preparing part of that workforce. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So there's been, a lot of effort over the, last decades to train, folks with advanced degrees to work in this area of quantum computing, which is even broader than just computing, quantum sensing and quantum networks and quantum communication. You can put quantum in front of almost anything. And there's a big workforce, and the labs are, here in New Mexico, are probably at the forefront of the technology and the science. And we're at the verge where it's starting to move out of the labs and into industry, and particularly, as we hope, into industry that's here in New Mexico. And today, the majority of the workforce have these advanced degrees, but as we look 5 years down the road, we see more and more need for technicians, individuals that might just have a certificate or an associate's degree or maybe a bachelor's degree. And so think of it as kind of expanding the need of the workforce as we move from the labs into the industry space.
Gotcha. So for those folks watching, CNM was awarded more than $800,000 to help develop this quantum computing lab. Is that correct?
Yes, we've actually received several awards.
Okay.
And so one of the first ones was from the U.S. Department of Education to kind of get started with in partnership with Sandia National Labs to build this what we're calling the Quantum Learning Lab, or QULL. Cool is kind of the acronym for it. And then recently, as part of this Elevate Quantum Tech Hub, CNM was awarded an additional $4.7 million to further expand that. And so, it's probably fair to say that the government's kind of doubling down on quantum, and they're doubling down here in the Mountain West. So, it'll, as Jake said, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico is really where the country sees where quantum's going to emerge.
Gotcha. So tell us a little bit about this lab. I know you guys are in development on it. We are hoping to get it, fully and inviting students in next summer. Walk us through what this lab is going to do in the boot camp that's going to be associated with it.
Absolutely. And so CNM and Sandia have been partnering for a while and talking about, what is that workforce going forward needing to look like? And we've decided to take one of our existing programs. We have a program called Deep Dive, which is an immersive technology training program. The one that I currently teach around the Internet of Things or smart connected devices is a 10-week immersive training. So it's full-time, 10 weeks, 400 hours. Students come in with really no background in technology. They may be working in retail. They may be working in hospitality. Maybe they have a tech degree. And we rapidly train them to get into entry-level technician jobs. And so the idea is to take that concept and apply it to this emerging need in quantum. And so with research scientists from Sandia National Labs, we are kind of dissecting what is needed from a technician in this new workforce. What skills do they need? They need to know about lasers and lenses and mirrors and fiber optics. They need to know about very low pressure systems similar to what is used in the semiconductor manufacturing space. They need to learn this quantum phenomena. They need to learn some math and statistics, technical documentation, those types of stuff. And so we're building this lab that will give students, again, over 10 weeks, this hands-on immersive training into what we believe are the skills that these quantum companies, as they start to emerge, are going to need.
Okay. And talk a little bit about, we were talking before we started the role here, kind of filling some of these needs of the technical needs. That is there a dearth of this part of the workforce that we need to get folks in here to really get quantum computing off to the next level?
Yeah, so kind of understanding what the current workforce looks like. We've been working on this for a few years, right? And so working with the largest government consortium, the Quantum Economic Development Consortium, we've taken a look at the data, and right now, half of the workforce needs a PhD, the other half doesn't. It's coming from physics, computer science, engineering, chemistry, math, across all these different areas. So last year, we actually hosted at CNM, through that group, a workshop with our industry partners to say, hey, is there actually a need here for quantum technicians? Right? The machines are advancing, so to a point where they need people to go through and operate them and, let the PhDs go through and continue doing the cutting edge work. So we said, what do we actually need? Well, we need people who can maintain the vacuum systems, who can go through and troubleshoot and do some of the assembly stuff, right? And our industry partners 100% said, absolutely, we need that. And right now they're recruiting from, audio mechanics, or they're getting cake makers, things like that, where really fine detail is important. And they're training them up, right? And so we identified these gaps, hearing directly from industry, and we're partnering with them to build this program. And it's going to be a first in the nation type thing, right? We're trailblazing here, which is really exciting. And it's tied directly to what we're hearing industry say they want, which is something that I feel like you don't see too terribly often.
Right. And a lot of times you do see, I mean, a lot of people will say that you really do want to reach out to the industry instead of saying this is what you need. You're asking the question as opposed to telling it and getting that answer so you can get a better solution for it. So, you kind of mentioned a little bit about it, but maybe someone watching this, I know that part of the conversation was this is great if someone is looking for, a career change, or maybe, they don't know, or, maybe they're like me and the idea of quantum is just terrifying. I don't even know where to begin with this. Is that who we're kind of inviting into this?
Yeah, we're trying to invite really everyone into this. We want this quantum revolution to be inclusive. We don't want it to just be people that have been fortunate enough to live in the right zip code, go to the right school, that type of stuff. And so the way we're developing the program and the folks that we've served in our current programs are exactly that. My average student these days is probably in their early 30s.
Okay.
I've had 17-year-olds.
Those are the kids you were talking about.
My kids, right? And I've had 17-year-olds in the class. I had a student this summer that went from high school to a boot camp and right into UNM to get that little acceleration. I had an 81-year-old take my class. So 1781, as we were talking about earlier, it's not for folks that they don't need to already be great at math and science.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what a computer mouse is, you can divide using a calculator on your phone. That's all you need, and we're going to take you the rest of the way there. And I'm very fortunate to be working with these experts at Sandia that are helping us really craft this curriculum, taking what CNM is an expert at, which is how do we train workforce and how do we make education accessible to really everyone in Central New Mexico, and take that with the science, merge the two together, and get these students the training. Most of them will probably be career changers. Folks, again, that are working in a non-tech job and always wanted to get into it, but for some reason they've self-selected out. Maybe math was hard for them in high school. Maybe it's been 20 years, they don't remember the math. And so a lot of what we're doing in the program is to break down those barriers and then also create a teaching environment that really works for all individuals. It's not going to be your traditional sit in a classroom for 2-3 hours, take a lot of notes, go home and do homework. It'll be, we're going to do a demonstration. We'll teach a little bit of math. And within minutes, we're going to go apply it. We'll go align a laser through, something called a beam splitter into some sensors. And so it's really, every hour it's going to be learn, apply, reflect, learn, apply, reflect.
And I imagine that really ingrains what we're learning. It's one thing to learn theory in a textbook. It's another thing to apply that theory to real world content.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And but they'll come out of it learning math concepts. They'll come out of it learning physics concepts. They'll come out of it at least being familiar with the quantum phenomena. We want our individuals, they're not going to be experts, obviously, right? But we want them to be able to engage with one of these PhDs, have a conversation so they can understand what needs to happen, and then be able to apply their expertise, that hands-on skill, that attention to detail, that may be a better way to do it kind of type concepts. And we believe that it will make the entire workforce stronger.
Now, from Sandia's perspective, obviously this partnership, you have a vested interest, and there are probably a number of reasons to do this. Is part of it really looking for those new Sandia employees, the people that can really fill some of the jobs that I can imagine Sandia is going to need to fill as this technology comes more and more online?
Yeah, so there's absolutely that aspect of things. And to build on that before I actually answer your question, right? New Mexico has been a leader in quantum technology for decades, right? For 30 years, from Los Alamos National Labs to Sandia, with our university partners at UNM. We're working with Tech and NMSU, right? So we want on-ramps and off-ramps for people who want to get into the field to come work at whatever makes sense for them, right? And we see this gap with our technician roles, right? And we're hearing from industry that that's what they need right now, and they're going to be the highest demand for those types of positions. And we're talking with a lot of the different names. So think Microsofts and the Googles. Those companies all have quantum programs, but also the pure play quantum startups. So Quantinuum or Quera or some of these others, right? And they're looking for where they're placing their next bets, where they want to partner, right? And New Mexico's regional strength in this. We're best in the nation in a lot of different ways. And we want that full education kind of stack and workforce ready to support those companies to come here, right? And so a long way to answer your question of we absolutely have quantum technicians at Sandia, and we will continue needing those. But we also want to draw others here. We want that really tight innovation ecosystem and this new potential economic growth for the state, right? I'm from Roswell, born and raised there, lived in Socorro and other areas, and I want to see this come to New Mexico, and it's an area where we are leading, we're trailblazing. We're partnering and recognized on the national scale as being one of the best places to go for this technology area. So working with places like CNM, with any of the institutions I talked about, now we're starting to engage the community more. And this is just one of the really great programs that shows that we're doing it. It's not something we're talking about. We're actually moving it to action.
Yeah, and maybe to build on that a little bit. One of the one of the dilemmas always with bringing a new industry in is you need the workforce to attract the industry, but you can't train a workforce for an industry that's not ready to absorb people, right? You're not going to go to school for 10 weeks or for 2 years and not have a job on the other end. And so part of the philosophy that we've put into this quantum learning lab and in our technician training program is we're training individuals for skills that exist in jobs that are here in Albuquerque today. So someone coming through this program could go work for, one of these new solar cell manufacturers that are going to Mesa del Sol. They can go work at, some of these manufacturing companies that support the labs and the base, like Blue Halo. So individuals that come out of here, there are jobs in New Mexico today that they can fill. And the idea is we're going to seed central New Mexico with a quantum-ready workforce. And as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 companies come, the workforce is there. But in the meantime, everyone has good-paying, high-tech jobs.
And that's kind of getting toward my last question, but you really kind of hit on it a little bit, just saying, and knowing a number of different industries, and I'll pick the film industry, for example. Before Hollywood was coming, they wanted to know, do you have the crews that can do this? If you don't have the crews, it's not really incentivizing us to come. So when we're talking about quantum technology and the quantum field of computing, it is going to help us, compete with Florida or compete with the Pacific Northwest or any other part of the country that is trying to get this to come here. So as you said, we're seeding it so that if they're looking, this makes a massive incentive to plant roots here in New Mexico. So to that end, my last question for you guys is, as you said, you're getting out in the community. What is the response that you're seeing? Are you seeing some excitement about this? Or are people reaching out and saying, I'm hearing about this, I want to learn a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot. I'm hearing a lot of excitement, and similar to you, I've heard about quantum computing, but what really isn't. Mm-hmm. So I think we're all on the verge of that. It's getting some momentum. It's getting some excitement, which is great. And now we're at the point where we can start talking to individuals about, here are the programs we're developing. And as Jake said, this is one of many programs, and it's a set of on-ramps, and it may be something that you can go directly to industry with. We're hoping that individuals that come through our program that end up saying, I didn't really like school when I was in high school, but this was great. And maybe I go get an associate's degree and then a bachelor's degree, and maybe I get one of these advanced degrees. And so we're seeing that excitement, that education that maybe people have decided wasn't for them, maybe is, and it's in this really cool high-tech area.
Yeah. If people want more information, they're watching this and they want to get on board with this. Like we said, we got a minute. You guys are building this program out right now where you're hoping to get it fully online to invite students in June, or the summer of 2025. In the meantime, can we learn more about this online? Can we learn more about what Sandia is doing? And if so, where do we go online to find that out? Jake, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I mean, talking quantum writ large, right? Sandia does have a actually pretty up-to-date website to learn a little bit about what's going on, right? And so that's one way. We're working really closely with UNM on a project called Quantum New Mexico. So you could go to qnm.unm.edu to get connected that way. And we're working with groups like the New Mexico Tech Council, where we have a group dedicated to engaging with the business community and our policymakers and others to talk about what quantum is, what the opportunities are, what the applications are, things of that nature. And those meetings are open to anyone who wants to come and learn. We're working with our New Mexico Economic Development Department, with our governor's office and others to build out programs. And we're thinking through ways to effectively connect with the community, right? To meet them, where it makes sense to learn about quantum, because I've been doing this for 6 years and I do not have to know, quantum mechanics to be able to work in this field. But, being conversant, understanding where the applications are going to be, what they're actually going to be able to do, how it'll affect your business. We're actively exploring how to do things and communicate about what those opportunities are now. So I'm super happy to connect with anyone who's interested. This is going to be what we're doing for the next year as the Tech Hub rolls out, as some of this other activities are kind of done. And we're hoping through partnerships with CNM and others, we can just amplify that impact way beyond what we could do as a national lab alone.
And from the CNM perspective, Doctor, where do you recommend we go for us to learn more?
Specifically for the boot camp that we're building, it's part of our deep dive series. So there's a website called deepdivecoding.com/quantum. We'll get you to kind of the homepage for this specific program. But in addition to that, we're starting to put quantum topics into other classes across CNM. So hopefully this winter, there'll be a survey of quantum computing class. So there'll be these, easy entry, no prerequisite classes that we have within the college. Sandia National Labs puts on a summer program called Q Camp, and we're trying to get high school kids involved with that. And then ultimately, as part of this Elevate Quantum, we hope to, one of our first activities, our early activities, is going to get some websites together that's like an aggregate of all these dispersed places. Our vision is to have a one-stop shopping landing page that'll allow anyone to get there, and from there they can find all the folks that are doing this great work in quantum here.
That's great that we're already working to
thinking
cultivate this.
It'll be a few months, but that's what that's our plan to get to.
Well, Rome wasn't built in a day. Microsoft wasn't built in a day. So obviously this is on the ground floor. And speaking of Microsoft, I know we lost that technology. Seattle doesn't sound like we want to lose quantum computing to anywhere. We want to keep it right here on the mountain.
We are going to keep it here.
That's great. So yeah, you heard it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for all the expertise. And we are going to keep our eye on this because it's just such exciting stuff, I think, for the land of enchantment. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And again, folks, if you want more information on this, we're going to make it super easy. Post all of these links at krqe.com. Until next time, I'm Chad Brummett. Thank you for joining us here on New Mexico Frontiers, the digital series.